Well, I don't reckon none of you ever heard the story of the little man with no name. He came walking into our lives right out of the blue one day. We were a peaceful little community with not a whole lot happening. That is, until Bud came along. Well, at least that's what everyone called him. I can tell you this, though. None of us were ever the same again after Bud came into our lives. Oh, I know down through the years a lot has been added to the story as people told what they thought they saw and remembered. But as far as I can recollect, this is how the actual story goes. Bud was a man who never had a name. He wasn't even taught how to read or write, but you should have heard him speak in his broken English. He didn't use fancy words, and sometimes he would stutter a little bit, but you always knew what he was trying to say. For never having had an education, Bud was wiser than most of them that did. He never knew his parents because they had abandoned him just a few days after he was born and left him on the doorstep of an orphanage. Bud didn't have a family or anyone to write home to. Many people hear their names called out in their sleep, but Bud had no name for anyone to call out to. A lot of other people celebrate family reunions, but Bud had no family to celebrate with. He was a stranger and a vagabond on the earth, and at times, I suppose, he must have felt that he didn't even exist. You should have heard Bud sing, though, when he would sing Amazing Grace with his Irish accent and his childlike way of singing. His face would light up and we all knew the song was living in his heart. Bud was an amazing miracle of grace, and I think that is why when he sang, the song came alive. Bud never had much of this world's goods, and it had been his lot in life to eat the crumbs that fell to the floor from rich men's tables. Bud never asked for anything, only for the opportunity to earn a morsel of bread in order to keep both body and soul alive. Anytime Bud did have a little money, he always gave it away to those he saw in need. They never knew where the money came from, and they were always told it was from some anonymous donor. It seemed like Bud was happier when he didn't have any money than when he did. As Bud would say, a fella's just can't be vet his habits with too much hanging wound him neck. Many people in these parts thought Bud was an angel sent by God on a special mission, and many of them called him the walking Bible. We never did find out for sure if Bud was an angel. I don't reckon that will always remain a mystery that only Bud will know. Bud had a special gift in that he could hear voices that had been spoken in the past in about any room or building he went into. Oh, I know that sounds impossible, but we have all heard him do it many times. He heard my father's dedication speech spoken over 50 years ago when my father first opened the doors of Downing Chapel and asked God to bless and inhabit the sanctuary. Bud heard that sermon for the first time he ever set foot in our little church, which was hidden in the woods down in a little meadow. Bud was amazing in many respects. I think he treasures his old tattered and worn out hat more than anything else he owned. Bud always whistled a little tune about everywhere he went. I have since found out what Bud was trying to whistle. Bud was trying to whistle, Jesus him that does the loves of me, dis of me knows, for the Bibles it tells me so. Bud only stayed in our little community long enough for us all to learn what a true disciple of Jesus Christ really is. I suspect no man ever walked closer to the Father, as Bud called him, than Bud did. Our hearts broke the day we saw the faraway look in his eyes, and we all knew it wouldn't be long until Bud was on the road again, spreading the gospel message in his own special way. I reckon he figured his job in our little community was done. Bud had come into our hearts like no one had ever done before. Sometimes on a hot summer's day, it seems as if I can see him come a-walking in the distance, and I can see again the sparkle he always had in his eyes. I can almost hear him ask the same thing he asked when he first came to our little town of Cedar Falls. Excuse me, madam, could you spare us a drink of water? 'Cause me feel awful thirsty.